You know that feeling, right? You get really frustrated with all the performance advice out there. You try some new hack that was totally life-changing for your friend, but for you, nothing. A total flop. And it's so easy to think, well, maybe I'm the problem. But what if the advice itself is the issue? Today, we're going to dig into why that might be and how understanding our own biology is the real key to unlocking peak performance.
So this is the big question, isn't it? And the answer isn't going to be another self-help metaphor. It's actually found in the physical machinery inside our skulls. The biology that drives performance for every single one of us. Okay, so to get to that answer, we really need to look at two different ways of thinking about human potential. On one side, you've got traditional psychology, and on the other, you have this amazing, fast-growing field of neurobiology. Now, they're not enemies, but their approaches, well, they couldn't be more different. And here's the absolute key difference. Psychology tends to be outside in. It looks at what we do and then creates these metaphors to explain our behavior. Neurobiology, on the other hand, is inside out. It looks at the actual wiring, the mechanism that makes us do those things. Think of it like this. Psychological advice is kind of like a custom-tailored suit. It might fit one person perfectly, but it's not going to fit everyone. Neurobiological principles, that's more like a universal operating system. Since we all share the same basic hardware, what works for one person's biology is way more likely to work for everyone else's. This whole shift towards biology is really only possible because our understanding of the brain itself has just gone through a massive revolution. Seriously, we've gone from this old, static, kind of simplified model to something way more dynamic and, frankly, way more powerful. Let's take a look at how that understanding has changed. The old idea, and believe it or not, this has roots in the pseudoscience of phrenology, studying bumps on the head, was that the brain is like a map. You've got your language area over here, your memory area over there. And sure, this idea got a boost when we saw what happened when people had injuries to specific spots. But while it's not totally wrong, some areas are specialized, it's just a massively incomplete picture. But now, thanks to these incredible advances in brain imaging, we know the brain works mostly through networks. So think of it less like a map of disconnected towns and more like a bustling, interconnected city where different districts are constantly collaborating on complex projects in real time. Peak performance isn't about one part of the brain working harder, it's about getting all the right parts working together.
Okay, so the fancy scientific term for this is functional connectivity. All it really means is that groups of neurons, sometimes in completely different parts of the brain, all fire together to get a task done. They're like these little temporary pop-up teams, cell assemblies that join forces for a split second to solve a problem, and then they just dissolve. This is the brain's true dynamic nature in action.
And this is a perfect illustration of the whole concept. We all have a fear network, right? It kicks in to keep us safe from threats. But we also have an executive attention network. This is the one you use to force yourself to focus during a boring meeting, or, and this is crucial, to override an impulse, like telling yourself not to eat that entire pint of ice cream in the freezer. We've all been there. It's this network that helps you pick your long-term goals over that short-term craving.
So, if the brain works in these reliable, species-wide networks, it leads to this really profound shift in how we see ourselves. Instead of fighting against what we think are our limitations, we can actually start to work with the system we were born with. Our biology isn't the obstacle, it's literally the instruction manual. And this brings us to a really powerful new definition of peak performance, which comes from the researcher Stephen Kotler. It's simply this: getting our biology to work for us instead of against us. It totally reframes high achievement. It's not some battle of willpower anymore. It's a skill of alignment, of understanding the system and using it the way it was designed to be used. Okay, so theory is great, but if performance is all about aligning with our biology, what does that actually look like in practice? Well, the research points to 4 core biological systems, or pillars, that we can all learn to leverage. This is the blueprint. So how do we put this into practice? Well, we can think of it like a game. First up, you need motivation. That's the biological drive that gets you in the game in the first place. Next is learning, which is what lets you level up and keep playing. Then, when you hit a tricky part, you need creativity. That's how you steer around obstacles. And finally, the ultimate power-up is flow, that amazing state of total immersion where you play at your absolute best. And this isn't just a cute metaphor. Each of these is a distinct biological system we can actually learn to tap into. And let's be super clear, these are not just buzzwords. Each one of these pillars is a whole suite of biological systems. Take motivation. It's not one thing. It's this catch-all term for our brain's reward systems, the neurochemistry behind grit, and the intense focus that comes from having clear goals. Learning involves specific neural pathways. Creativity is all about getting different brain networks to talk to each other. And flow, that unleashes a whole cascade of neurochemicals that focus our attention and just massively boost performance. These are real, tangible processes we can actually influence.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. And what's wild is, even though it feels revolutionary, it's something we've kind of known for a very, very long time.
Check this out. This quote is from William James, one of the fathers of modern psychology, and he wrote it way back in 1899, over 120 years ago. He knew back then what we are just now proving with fancy brain scanners. The ultimate goal is to make our nervous system, our biology, our greatest ally in anything we want to achieve.
So, the most important thing to take away from all this is that your biology isn't a set of fixed limits you have to constantly fight against. It's a toolkit. It's a reliable, repeatable, universal system that you can learn to work with to unlock your highest potential. It's already there.
So I want to leave you with this final, powerful question. If you stopped fighting your own nature and instead learned how to partner with it, what would actually become possible for you? The answer isn't about finding the next life hack. It's about understanding the incredible system you were born with and finally learning how to use it. So what could you achieve if your biology became your greatest ally?